And good day, this is Key, and welcome to Queenshipt, where we speak to women who are only beautiful on the inside and out, walking with you on your transformative journey to your highest purpose. And good day. So, I had a profound thought today, and I just wanted to share this thought because I thought that it was profound. And when I was training to become a corporal, they taught us how to teach regardless of your learning style. So if you're a hands-on learner, visual learner, we we cover every learning style. So if I was to give one lesson, everybody should be on the same page once I finish that lesson. And it was a system that covered every single learning style. So you don't have to repeat yourself, and it's a uh, what I was saying. No man left behind type of learning system. And the best teachers can relay a message to every learning style and every age. So the best teacher can speak in a way where if you are a kid, you understand what I'm talking about. If you're an adult, you can understand what I'm talking about. If you're a kinesthetic learner, visual learner, or you learn by reading, everybody is on the same page. Everybody understands what the lesson was at the end of the lesson. What the lesson was at the end of the day. However, there are some people that may need one-on-ones, and sometimes some people can be limited in their ability to understand based on traumas, anxiety, or developmental issues. And sometimes when you hold on to trauma, when you hold on to generational pressures or generational wounds or your own personal wounds, it prevents your mind from retaining information because you're holding on, your body is holding on to too much. So that person may need to spend more time healing, more time with somebody who's a professional, because you can ask ChatGPT all the questions in the world, but ChatGPT can't see that you're avoiding the question. ChatGPT can't see that, oh, your voice cracked when you was talking on a specific topic. Oh, you're still harboring feelings on something that happened when you were 7. ChatGPT can't pick up these minor cues that a therapist or a human being can. So you may actually have to go to a therapist. Some people going to ChatGPT is a form of avoidance, not actually dealing with it effectively, efficiently, not dealing with it at all. They'd rather take the easy route and ask a robot that has no empathy or sympathy. You're not actually getting down to the root of the issue. So that hinders your growth, your forward motion, because you're still holding on, you're still bottling up these emotions. Your body is still holding on to these hardships. You may have to explore inner memory and explore that feeling of that time. So if you're an adult, you may have to enter into a state of when you were 7 to revisit that memory. And that may be hard. That's why you need to have a professional to help you explore that memory. You may have PTSD, and professionals can help you better explore these experiences, to revisit that time in your life, so that you're able to move forward in your mind. When you have anxiety, when you have self-hatred, when you lack self-belief, it makes it very difficult for you to learn. So I could be trying to teach you, but you're not retaining the information because you're hearing it from a wounded point of view. So that person may have to take a longer route in order to retain information. They have to address that time when they were 7, when the mama's boyfriend came into the room when the mama was out working late. And if your parents are mature enough, because sometimes deep wounds come from parents, the closest people to you. If they're mature enough, and if you're lucky enough that they're still alive, you may have to have that adult conversation with them, but adult to an adult instead of parent to child. And you have to use your discernment, because sometimes our parents may not be emotionally mature to be able to have these adult conversations. Oh, why would you leave me with him? You only were dating for a few weeks. Why would you leave your 7-year-old daughter in a house with that creep? You should have known better. Do you know what he did to me? Did you know how he looked at me? Didn't why would you let him speak to me that way? Why would you let him? And sometimes you may need a mediator so that you can have that conversation with your parents. And you have to use your discernment, because sometimes you may not be able to have that conversation with your parents, but for your own sake you have to move past it. So you have to find a way to grow past that pain, that wound, whatever it takes, so that you can grow, you can mature, so you can become a better person, so you can become better than your parents, so you can be the one to break the chains. You have to address hard feelings, because it is not easy. It's not, and it's worse to go throughout life holding on to something that you went through when you was a kid. Sometimes you may have to be the parent. Sometimes you may have to be the parent. What type of person would talk to a child like that? What type of person would treat a child like that? You may have to put yourself in your shoes that don't fit. You have to have compassion for your 7-year-old, 10-year-old self. Wow, I really went through a lot. There's a difference between playing victim and actually acknowledging, hey, you was a victim. They knew what they were doing. You were hurt. You were traumatized. That's a traumatic experience that you had to go through. Sometimes you have to acknowledge that, yes, you were once a victim, so that you can move on from it, not so that you can resent, not so that you can blame somebody for what you went through. You're an adult now. You have to take responsibility for something that you didn't cause. And that's just the reality of healing and moving forward. Sometimes there aren't going to be people here to console you, to make you feel better, to give you comfort and peace of mind. Sometimes if you address your parents, they may blame you, and that may put you in a worse state of mind. They may invalidate your experience. They may dismiss your feelings. And you have to have discernment, because not everybody's experience is the same. Some people, The parents may have some compassion. I'm sorry, I didn't know you went through that. What do you need now to move forward? What do you need now to heal? Do you want to go to a therapist together? Sometimes you may have that type of parent, and sometimes you may have a parent where it's like, well, you always wore short dresses. It was your fault. You may have an insecure parent. You may have an emotionally immature parent. You have to have discernment when it comes to your own personal healing journey in order to decipher what you're going to do to move forward. Sometimes your parents can't be involved in your healing journey because they might make it worse unknowingly. And it's not isolation, it's not avoidance, it's not oh you hate your parents. It's being wise and taking your personal healing journey seriously. There are people who can't come with you. There are people who have limited understanding or limited where, okay, you have experience, you went through this, you probably went through the same thing, or you were a perpetrator once and you grew past that. Some people don't learn, and they have nothing to give you. They have nothing of value to give you to help you move forward, or that would give you some peace. So, okay, I can't tell you that, I can't tell you that, I can't tell you that you were a perpetrator and you're the reason that I have this trauma. And you haven't grown, you haven't learned, and nothing you say is anything worth hearing. So I'm gonna just have to position myself in a way where, okay, I have to parent myself. I have to have self-compassion. It's okay. You didn't know. Not to pander to your ignorance, but to actually help you grow and learn and to heal that version of yourself. That 7-year-old self needs a helping hand, needs a hug, needs to be told that it's okay. You didn't know. That 7-year-old self needs to be consoled, needs to be at peace. When you have certain things blocking your mind, where your mind and your being is consumed by pain, it makes it very difficult for your body to grasp onto new things. Oh, I have this healthy relationship, but I had a poor relationship with my parents. And because that was never once a part of my reality, how can I accept this as my new reality, my new foreign reality, if I haven't made peace with my past? Good day. I'm good. I'm thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Walaikum assalam. But yeah, this was an expression from a teacher and a student. Just because I'm a teacher doesn't mean I'm not still learning. I've had to go through the exact same thing that I'm talking about. I had issues with reading, and I didn't realize that I was the one in my own way. And then if I would stumble over a word, or if I was having trouble retaining information, I'd beat myself up, and I realized I didn't have any compassion for myself because nobody had compassion for me. I would give up on myself because I was gave up. Somebody gave up on me. And I had to heal that part of myself so that I was able to move forward in my life. I didn't see certain things growing up. So how can you become something that you have never seen before? Sometimes you see the outcome, but you don't see the process. So you don't know how to actually, you don't know the steps it takes to become who you want to be, because that foundation wasn't laid for you. I don't know how to be compassionate. I love how my parents love, and then I see how the parents love, or heard the stories of them, how they grew up, and how they had to be independent, how they went from house to house, or they got beaten with a metal pole, or everything that they earned. If they bought a new bike, the parents would break it because the parents wanted to teach them a lesson or something like that. But they worked so hard to earn that, to earn the money to pay for that bike, or your parents were on drugs or whatever, and that's your parents' story when they were kids. Oh, your daddy paid more attention to his friends and ate up the food in the fridge and fed his friends, while you guys had to, while you guys were left with nothing, and that's your parents' story. So imagine they would how they would raise you based off of how they were raised. And if you want to play the blame game, how far are you willing to go to blame somebody before you start taking responsibility for your own life? That trauma goes generations back, where your parents weren't even born. They didn't heal that trauma. They didn't heal that chain of stress and pain. They didn't heal that. So if you want to play this blame game, you gotta blame your parents, slave master, whatever the case may be, and the slave master's parents. How far are you willing to go to blame somebody before you start taking responsibility for your own life? At the end of the day, there's nobody to blame. You're not to blame. They're not to blame. You might as well hate everybody if you want to play the blame game. You gotta realize that your parents are people too. They went through stuff too. They raised you with the resources and knowledge that they knew. They loved you the way they knew how to love you. And if that's not enough, well, then become enough. Become better. And it takes taking that small, minute step in order to heal yourself on a cellular, mental, emotional, spiritual level. It's a holistic journey. Eating right. So you have clear thoughts. When you eat right, you have enough energy to work out, and working out makes you happy. On a not dopamine, but serotonin. Serotonin, it lasts longer than dopamine. And this is not just for you. When you heal the cells, when you heal yourself on a cellular level, that lesson is passed on to your kids. Now, how they respond to stress, how they respond to reality will be different. Than It's not going to be erratic. It's going to be more thought through, patient. It's going to be more compassionate, loving. They're going to approach things with empathy instead of rage, anger. They're not going to beat you. They're going to communicate because you learned better. It's not just for you, it's for your kids. Because your lessons will be passed on through epigenetics. Your healing journey will be will not be put to waste. And then when your body is no longer holding on to this weight of the world, of your past, of your parents' past, when your body is no longer holding on to this weight, you have the capacity to retain and be poured into. Okay, I cleaned out the house. Now I can bring in more furniture. I can bring in more new furniture now that the house is cleaned out. I can retain more information now that I've offloaded all this stuff that doesn't even belong to me. This is not my pain, this is my parents' pain. This is not my frustration, this is my parents' frustration, or the parents' frustration. Now that I've let all that go, I can now allow in love. I can now receive healing, receive blessings because I've let all that go. Now I can receive lessons and I can move forward and grow and become a better person now that I've let go of all these constraints. Sometimes it's more than, oh, they're lazy, they don't want to learn. Sometimes the wounded, the their parents are broken, or emotionally, on an emotional level, or they don't have the money, they don't have the funds, they're hungry, they're starving. Sometimes it's more than, oh, they're not willing to learn. Sometimes it's deeper than that. Sometimes it's generational. Sometimes it's a social construct. I understanding the nuance of the complexity of being a human being is too much to think about. So we paint everything black and white so it's easier for us to understand. But then when we do that, we pay no mind to the real solutions. And then that could be our obstacle, our lack of understanding, our own ignorance, and our our limited understanding on the nuances. So I just wanted to come on today to share that thought. In order to retain the complexity of reality, sometimes we need to let go of the complexity of the past, hardships and strain, stress, pain, wounds of our ancestors or our parents. And sometimes we need to treat our parents like people. Okay, that did happen in the past. Sometimes you need to heal before you even approach your parents in a way where it's like it's loving. Sometimes you need to give yourself that time, and it's okay to give yourself that time. It's okay, you want to approach your parents with love and compassion instead of them being the villain and you the victim. You need to learn to let that type of stuff go so that you're not harboring any resentment towards your parents, the people who birthed you, who brought you into existence. You didn't ask to be here, but you're here. So what you're gonna do with that time? What you're gonna do with God's time? What you're gonna do with the breath of life that God gave you? You're gonna hate the people that brought you into existence, or you're gonna make peace with your past so that your parents can heal through you. Because sometimes they may need an example themselves because they didn't have one. Sometimes you can teach your parents to love again. You can be that leading example for your parents instead of expecting them to give you what you need. That's not the job anymore, especially if you're an adult. If you know better, well then show them better. Communicate different, respond to them differently. If they're being dismissive of your feelings, you can call them out on it. Well, that's not nice. I don't want to be spoken to like that. You can correct them with compassion, with patience. It's never too late to learn and do better. And it starts with you. If they're not willing to do it, or if they haven't even came to a realization that they need to be the ones to heal that part of the past, to heal that past, to make right with you, to do right by you. Oh, I know I left you with that that guy, and I know that he trigger warning, and I know I wasn't there. I'm sorry. If you can't get that from them, don't expect it from them. Forgive them anyways. Forgive them anyways for your own sake. And maybe they may regret how they treated you growing up, or they may contemplate about it, they may ponder on it. Luckily, my behavior, me doing full solitude and gray walling and what they call it, non-contact, me giving no contact with my parents allowed them to ponder and think about the behavior. Think about how they treat me and how they talk about me, how they talk to me. Not sure how they talk about me behind my back, but I also have to take earnest for my own life. If you want them to stop treating you like a kid, then act like an adult. Take responsibility for your own life and stop expecting them to take care of you, to console you. Yes, it's the your parents, but you're also at an age where you can be a parent too. If you're not lucky enough to have parents that will have an epiphany and be like, to give you that console, like you honestly have to take earnest of your own life and be the one to make that change for your family, your chosen family, and the family that you came from, for your sake, for your betterment, for your growth, for your improvement, for your evolution. You have to be the one to take earnest for something that your parents didn't even think to do. And this was Queenshipt, coming to you live to talk about what was on my mind. Peace.